Welcome to the Made in the Mist podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. Now please welcome your hosts, Emma and Dan.
Welcome, listeners, to another amazing episode of the Made in the Mist podcast, the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs, where we delve deep into the stories of the visionaries shaping the future here in Niagara Falls and the Niagara region. We're here in the Money Mint podcast studio at the Niagara Falls Innovation Hub in the beautiful city of Niagara Falls, Ontario. I'm joined with my co-host here, Emma Eldon. Emma, how you doing?
Hello, everybody. I'm good, Dan. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. And as you know, we're keeping the ball rolling, bringing these amazing entrepreneurs right here from Niagara who started the biggest companies in Niagara. And today we have none other than, perhaps the leader in the construction industry, Niagara, Ontario, and Canada, for that matter, Mr. Tom Rankin. So excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure being here.
It's fantastic. I think, we can learn a lot about your story. Like I said, all the trials and tribulations that you've been through to get to be, the business here. In fact, I was having a conversation with our amazing Mayor Jim Diodati this morning, and he says that your picture is still hanging in the Municipal Works building there. So
Humble beginnings, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If I stayed there, I would have been retired by now.
Yeah, exactly. And he says, he's always excited when anybody connects with you, and they're always excited when you guys get the tender for a lot of the jobs, because they know that you guys do fantastic work, and that's kind of your reputation, your word is that your word is your bond. That you've created such amazing projects here, and now you moved into a life of philanthropy as well too. But what we want to do is want to get to the early stage. Tom Rankin, you said you were born up north Ontario?
I was born in Kirkland Lake, Ontario. My father was a miner. He likes to say hard rock miner, as opposed to a coal miner. And he married my mother, who was born in Canmore, Alberta.
Oh, wow.
And we had, there was 5 in our family. I had 3 sisters and 1 brother.
Oh, wow. And
so I was born in Kirkland Lake, yes.
Kirkland, wow, that's quite a remote place.
Yeah, I thought it was the center of the universe in those days. Though.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be your world, but then your world got bigger, right?
Got bigger, yeah. And we moved around a lot. We moved to Haltire when I was 5 because they were opening a new mine.
Oh, wow.
Then we moved to Timmins when I was 7. And then when I was 11, he took a trip to Nova Scotia. He was originally from Cape Breton Island.
Oh, wow.
And his family said, "John, why don't you come back?" At that point in time, he had a bad back. He could hardly work. And and when we moved to Nova Scotia, he couldn't work for a year, and he couldn't get any compensation.
Oh, no.
In those days, if you hurt your back in the mine, you couldn't get compensation.
Wow.
We were not rich. We were, to use the expression, poor as church mice.
So, and at what point did you decide that, you wanted to be your own entrepreneur? Was it from those early stages where you said,
I think I had some formative years, because I had an uncle who was well-paid, very, very high in the laborers union, in the mining industry. And he had a dream. He wanted to retire in Nova Scotia. He's like my father, went to Ontario. And he was a good talker. And he got a job in the union. And he wanted to retire and build a farm in Nova Scotia. So he bought the land, built 2 barns, built a house, and started bringing ayrshire cattle, purebred ayrshire cattle from Quebec. But he's got a wife and a 5-year-old boy.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we moved to Nova Scotia. Housing was hard to find, so we moved 20 miles away from where my father was from, because that's the only place we could find a home. So he asked my dad if I could come to the farm and look after the hat. So I left home when I was 12.
Oh, wow.
And I was literally the farm manager. I had to get up, milk the cows, feed them in the morning, and I had to take them in those days. I had to take them to the bull. I had to walk them 1.5 miles to breed them. I had to do all that stuff. So I learned.
Kind of, thrown into the fire.
And he wanted me to take them to the exhibition. So I had to clip them, trim their hair around their noses and their ears, wash them, bathe them, and then walk them almost 1 mile. I got a bunch of school friends.
Oh, wow.
He wanted to show he was so proud of these cattle he bought in Quebec. Thought they would blow away the local cattle at the exhibition.
Wow. So was it you would consider this was your first venture?
Yeah, it was kind of, when I look back and I said, that taught me to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. Because I had to think for myself. I had no experience. I was really a city boy.
Yeah.
But, I was smart, Yeah. And, I grasped things in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
So here I'm throwing me as a farm manager, but I only stayed there as a year. because he retired then. And he hired a full-time guy.
Yeah.
Okay. He thought that couldn't keep going forever to have you as a youth running the farm. Yes.
Either he was looking out for your future, or he's like, we need to find somebody to take over. That's fantastic. So then after that, you left the farm, and where did you go after that?
I went to university.
Okay.
And my father recovered his back injury, and I shouldn't tell the story, but he wore a woman's corset around his back, and that gave him relief. And he bought a lobster gear, and he became a lobster fisherman and a small-time farmer. Eventually, he was able to buy a farm, 100-acre farm. So when I was 17, I went to University of St. FX.
Okay.
And I put down originally science or engineering. And then I was on a job. I lied about my age when I was 15, working for the Department of Highways on the Cancer Causeway. Because Nova Scotia had to take a ferry boat from the mainland to Cape Breton, but they built this causeway out of rock.
Yes.
So I worked there, and this guy used to drive to the job every day in a big Cadillac. He'd get out and smoke cigars, and I said, "What's his position?" They said, "He's the engineer." Yeah.
So I want to be that.
I said, "That's what I want to be." So,
yeah.
Light bulb. Yeah.
And that's why I got into engineering. So it was 3 years at St. FX and 2 years at Dalhousie.
Wow.
And then I came to Ontario. I had a couple of job interviews. And Inco from Sudbury offered me a job, and I looked at the map, and I said, way south of Timmins, this is like southern Ontario. And I took the job.
Yeah. You're like, this is like the Florida when you're compared to Timmins. Yeah. So you took a job there, and you were an engineer at the time, working for a large organization.
So they called 11 engineers, and we started in May, and they called us in November, and they said they're letting 9 guys go. They're going to keep me and one other guy, and I said, no, let me go too. It wasn't I didn't study mining engineering. I studied civil. Yes. I went to Toronto. My mother had a lot of sisters in Toronto. My mother had 10 sisters and 1 brother. My grandmother was married twice.
Okay, no shortage of family.
My grandfather died of the Spanish flu when he was only 25.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So I went to Toronto, stayed there, and I got interviewed by the Department of Highways. They sent me to Burlington and then to St. Catharines. I've been here ever since.
Wow.
So fate brought you down to Niagara.
Fate brought me here.
Wow.
That's it. So you set yourself in.
I won't tell the story about how I met my wife.
Yeah, love to hear that story too, because behind every successful entrepreneurs is the other half that's always encouraging them and supporting too. So I'd love to learn the story how you met your wife.
Oh God, I shouldn't.
Did one of your aunts introduce you to her?
I didn't know anybody in Niagara, so I'd go to Toronto every weekend to be with my family, my mother's sister. So I had relatives there. It was 1 January, and I said, I'm going to stay in Niagara, but now what am I going to do? And I looked, and there's an ad in the paper. Club Heidelberg had a dance, Walter Ostenak playing the accordion. I'm used to square dances. So I went to this dance, and there's 4 nurses sitting together, and I danced with all 4 of them.
Oh, excuse me.
This part isn't actually true. And then I decided I want to take one of them home, and I went, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I said to my wife, you're a mo.
Stop. Oh
That's not true. I did that because I was telling to my grandchildren. I said, no, that is not true, but I just did it for...
Just an urban legend, right?
Yeah, but you met her at a dance.
I did meet her at Club Heidelberg.
And that's the one in Lake Street there?
Yeah.
Perfect. So still running strong there too. So from that point on, like I said, you were at Department of Highways, working out of St. Catharines. Were you building the QEW?
Well, actually, I was on Highway 8, which is between St. David's and the QEW. I built that road there.
Okay, wow.
That road was just a gravel road, so that was my first job.
Wow. And then from that point on, you said, okay, I took all the experience I got from working for these different jobs. Now I want to start my own organization.
Yeah, so my father working on the mine was a very good miner. He was offered a job as a superintendent of mines one time. He's only a grade 8 education.
Wow.
He didn't take it because my father was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
He would work for a year, and he was a binge drinker. And he'd drink for a month, lose the job, but he was so good he'd get another job. Mm-hmm. And when I graduated from university, he said, let's start up a construction company. Wow. Well, I knew I wasn't ready. I mean, I had the book smarts.
Yes.
But, I didn't have life experiences to start up a company. And I said, Dad, I can't do it. I need more experience.
Okay.
So I said, I can't do it. I would have loved to go in business with my dad. He didn't have any money.
Yeah.
But, when you need money as well to start up. So
yeah, so you went,
so I always had that in my back on my mind. So then when I came to work for the Department of Highways, they're going to send me to Toronto after 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I quit. And I went with the city of St. Catharines. I worked there 5 years. And then in 1970 with regional government, Con 8 was the engineer in Niagara Falls. He got a job at the region, Ford Robin moved up from design and construction to city engineer, and they had an opening. So I got the job design and construction for the city. And I was like second in command here, and worked here for 4 years. And then a developer offered me a lot of money to go, and I left the city after 4 years. But this developer offered me a lot of money.
So that's why your picture's still up in the municipal works there.
You know what? When I worked at City Hall, I'd come back and work at night. Nobody does that today.
Yeah.
If I had to work on Saturday, I would.
Yes, exactly.
Like I worked as hard when I worked for municipality as I do now. People say a lot of guys work for government; they don't work. I worked as hard.
Well, and I think that's a common theme when I just talk about your early life. You know, managing the farm, and now and then working for highways, and then working for the city. It seems that your resilience and determination has really kept you progressing in different roles and not giving up and doing more than you were expected to. That helped you stand out, right? And that's why, like you said, when they laid those 11 people off, you were one of the 2 that were staying. Most likely because of your hard work and determination.
Yeah, I think like hard work. I would say, I was smart, but I was living in Nova Scotia, getting a job in construction when I was 15, lying about my age.
Yeah.
And I'd work harder than anybody else. I was a hard worker. I never stopped. Worked all day.
And you still don't, right?
No, I still don't. If I do a job, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and do it right. So now you said, okay, you left the city of Niagara Falls and you got offered a very well-paying job from a developer.
I worked there 1 year, and Dave Stevens, who was a small contractor, did $3 million a year, called me up and took me out to lunch and said, Tom, I want to offer you a job. And so I accepted the job. So I called my wife and I said, I just accepted a new job. I got good news and bad news. The good news, I'm going to get a company vehicle in 6 months. Today, anyway, we hire engineers today, they get a car right away. But I just took a $5,000 cut in pay. My wife says, stand-at-home mom, even though she's a nurse, we had 4 kids. Okay. So she took it all in stride. She says, that's what you want to do. Because I knew, I had in the back of my mind, listen, I'm smarter than these other guys that are in the business. Mm-hmm. I'm smarter. I was confident. I had great confidence in myself.
Yeah. Well,
just great confidence.
That's good. No, that's excellent. You need that confidence, and it's good. Probably kept you motivated and pushed, and having
so
4
the
children.
First year we were there
at
Stevens, we were doing $3 million a year. They had a $260 million job at Ontario Paper. Now we do $3 million. I called Ontario Paper, the engineer by the name of Sterling. He said, you're not big enough to bid this job. So I called the Chicago Tribune because they owned Ontario Paper, and I talked to the engineer there, and he said, by all means, you're from St. Catharines. So he called the Sterling guy, and he said, get Mr. Rankin the plans.
No way.
Wow.
So I went up and got the plans for the job and bid it. Now, the first job was the first phase, was $2.5 million, and we got it.
Wow.
And we did $10 million in there that first year. That's the first year I'm working with Dave. He did $3 million a year. Now I've done $10 million on one job.
Wow.
So we went up, our volume went from $3 million to 15 my first year there.
Just from your first, that was your first deal with this company?
First year with the company, I went from $3 million to 5. So I think Dave then, after a year or two, says, I'm going to lose this guy. He worked for the city of Niagara Falls for 4 years, City of St. Catharines for 5, Department of Highways. I better make a deal. I got to keep him. So that's when he said, let's set up another company, Stevens and Rankin. Mm-hmm. And when you had to put $5,000 up, I think I had to scramble to get that. So I put the 5, and then I owned Stevens and Rankin.
Wow. And then so, and it just goes to show that, you didn't take no for an answer. When one guy said no, you're like, okay, well, I can do this. I can do this better. The confidence that you had, that kind of kept you propelling forward. So you created Stevens and Rankin, and then how many jobs were you doing at that point?
Well, so then he said, so what happened was he had in his mind that I would look after the construction business. He wanted to get into the gravel business. He bought a pit in Fond Hill, the Bishop's Pit. Mm-hmm. It was 10 acres of gravel. And he went to Guelph one day. There was a bankruptcy sale. He bought a scale, some other equipment at the sale. This company was a contracting company, owned a big quarry, and they went bankrupt. So he said, do you want to come up and see what I bought? So I went up to Guelph, and they had an account there. And I said, can I look at the books? And I said, this company didn't lose money. Why did they call the loan on the company? And they said they got nervous with the owner. He took a lot of money out of the company. And I said, Dave, this is a solvent company. They never should have did that to that guy. And Dave went up the next day and offered $1 million and bought out the company, all the assets.
Oh, wow.
So then that was a great opportunity for me because he went to Guelph to run this company. And then I ran Stevens and Rankin, and then D.L. Stevens, all the work they used to do on Stevens and Rankin now did that work.
Wow.
So you both kind of had your own almost division, and you started to build your own teams.
But he owned 50% of Stevens and Rankin. Plus, he said, "You want to go in this company?" I said, "Dave, I have no money to go in this company at Guelph." Okay. It was called Capital Paving. It's still going. His sons-in-law are running it now. Poor Dave retired at 65 and died of Alzheimer's before he was 70.
Oh,
that's why I think I don't retire.
Yeah, keep my
brain sharp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So at that point, you started the Stevens and Rankins, but then it switched to Rankin Construction. At what point did you decide to end that relationship, that partnership, and go on? As soon
as I brought my son and daughter, my daughter's a graduate of Western Business, and she's a financial wizard. So I made her vice president. My son's president. He's a graduate of Niagara College.
Oh, fantastic!
And so when they came in the business, and I froze my shares, and I've given them both shares, so they now probably own more than me. So the three of us, I used to make all the decisions myself. Now I don't make a decision unless I get agreement with all three of us.
That's fantastic. A lot of people that we speak to talks about those succession plans. And
yeah, so it was pretty simple. I just froze my shares, and then any new wealth the company makes, they get it.
Yeah, fantastic.
She gives me $1,000 a week, though.
so
it's okay. It's funny how these things work out, eh?
Yeah. So how did you approach, Stevens to say, listen, I want to take this with my family on my own? Was there resistance? Was it
no resistance at all? Because what had transpired, by the time that took over, I owned 50%, and he sold some of his shares. He only owned 20.
Oh.
A gentleman from Niagara Falls, Gino Capitano, owned 20. Another guy, Will Paradise, a good employee, owned 10. Anyway, those three guys tried to buy me out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Dave wasn't the instigator. The guy from Niagara Falls instigated it and tried to buy me out. So it was a kind of a shotgun. So I had to make sure I offered them enough money. I didn't want to lose. So I ended up buying the company. And the company took off then.
Yeah, it really did.
I didn't have, I was on my own. I could, I didn't have my family in the business, but I think I was a born entrepreneur, really. I think I'm a good engineer, but I think I really go back to working on being the manager on the farm, yes. Learning not to be afraid to make a decision.
Yes.
And, that I tell my children, I've told them all the time, we have 11 grandchildren, give them $20, let them go and buy the Christmas gifts. When they were like 7 or 8 years old. Let them screw up.
Yeah.
You got to do that. Too many people, they just they won't give their children independence.
Well, I'm sure that even that year you spent on the farm, there was probably a lot of, you had to make a decision, you had to move fast, you had to keep moving forward.
Nobody could give me an answer.
Yeah. And even just then you reinvented yourself, you kept going. So you finally found a little bit of comfort, I think, once you did have your family business, Rankin Construction. And what was the first 5 years of that like? What did that look like?
It wasn't great. In business, boy, in the first 5 years, we had a mortgage on our house. I told my wife we had our 60th wedding anniversary celebration on last Sunday.
Congratulations.
135 people. And, I had a mortgage on the house. He's at home thinking he's under this home with our 4 kids, and I got a mortgage on the house because the bonding companies are really tougher than the banks.
Mm-hmm.
Like the banks want your firstborn when they loan you money, but the bonding companies are even worse.
Yes.
When you bid a job, you put everything you own personally on the line.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything on the line with a bonding company.
Yeah, but you had confidence. You said you had confidence.
I had confidence to do it.
Yep.
I had a confidence. Now, can you imagine if I didn't? And I would bid the toughest jobs along the water. I didn't shy away from doing tough jobs.
Okay.
Really tough jobs. Like we did the dock in Picton, Ontario, the ferry dock, and out in Amherst. That was a $75 million job. We're up at the Bruce Nuclear. We have an office in Hamilton. We do lots of work there. But in the Bruce Nuclear, I came up with a novel idea how to remove nuclear waste from the ground, and we've been there for 21 years.
Oh wow!
So they invited us to do a bit of job, and it wasn't an ordinary job. You couldn't use machines to excavate and all that. No. And I sent one of my guys to Korea, and we bought a machine that could hydraulically push a 48-inch pipe in the ground without. Didn't want the ground to vibrate because
the nuclear waste
were buried in concrete pipes, and they were starting to crack.
Oh no!
So we had to have something that wouldn't vibrate. And I got this machine. We did one. They paid me $5, and the next year they gave me 21 of them to do.
Wow.
So my daughter, being a Western business graduate, saying, "What are you doing? Buying a machine for $250,000? You only use it once to do a $500,000 job." And she was probably right, but I had a gut feeling.
Yeah. And you got the job done, right?
I got the job done.
You got the job done, and that's kind of stepping outside of that comfort zone is what really got you there. Because I drive, and every time I see a big project going on, it seems like Rankin Construction got the tender, got that job. So
we just got the job for the bridge in West St. Catharines. Oh. And Alice Don's one of the biggest companies in Canada. We were $34 million, and they were $44.
Yeah, well,
we beat them by $10 million.
So that's the question: is how for some of our listeners here who are in any type of business that goes to tender, how do you ensure that you get the job, that you offer a competitive rate for that job or a competitive quote, but then that you do a good job in completing that work?
So it's a complete package, my philosophy has always been you work hard, you work safe, and you treat people properly. Mm-hmm. When I hire an engineer, I look at his degree and how he did and everything, but I want to know his people skills.
Yes.
How he can talk to people. That's so important. I'm so grateful that an engineer, and I took an English course. I'm not the greatest, but I did take technical writing. I took a writing course. And that's invaluable to me. You don't know. Because if you can't express yourself, some of the smartest engineers never get anywhere because they can't express themselves.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we surrounded ourselves, first of all, with good people. I pay my people $4 million at Christmas with bonuses.
Wow.
I give them turkeys at Christmas. We have a Christmas party. Yeah. We have a golf tournament. And, and the employees love coming into work.
Yeah.
And my daughter says, "Dad, that's a lot of money." I said, "That's money in the bank. They're going to work harder next year." And that's what they do. So first of all, I got employees, I think, that are second to none. Mm-hmm. And then we have really good engineers. To get the job, you got to be smarter than your competitor. Every competitor is trying to put you out of business.
Well, that's exactly it.
I'll give you an example. When I get into the windmills, I built more windmills in Ontario than anybody else.
Wow.
I own 2 wind farms myself. I didn't know anything about windmills. I went to Germany. I spent a week there in Germany at Enercon. I learned everything I could. I went through the factories. I went out to the site in Spain. I went to Spain for 1 week with a windmill company there. And I went to the Netherlands. And then I just said, I think I know enough now. And, I got into windmills. So you have to know what you're going to get into. You got to be smarter and have all the answers before you get into something.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, and you always keep, learning. And
I'm reading all the time, technical books and all that. I learn something every day.
Yeah. So you are almost are you seeking these challenges? Do you find maybe a market for it, and then you kind of dive into that lean into to maybe get some knowledge?
We actually, people don't know, but we have probably 12 companies, at least 10. I can't lost count.
Underneath the Rankin.
We have a lot of other companies. We have a Cube company that does about $25 million a year. Yep. I have the wind company. I have 3 power plants on the canal. I make my own electricity.
Come on.
Yeah, from wasted water on the canal.
Yes.
And we can serve 3,000 homes in St. Catharines and Niagara on the Lake from the power plants. It's wasted water on the canal. We built a power plant at Lock 1, 2, and 3. So that's a novel thing. I got back, and I had grandchildren, and they had asthma. And I said, "No, there's no asthma in my family. It's the air we breathe." And so I said, "I'm not a mechanical engineer. I can't improve the efficiency of a car engine, but I'm going to try to do a little bit that I can do." And I thought wind, was clean energy. I thought power, hydro generation is clean energy. Mm-hmm. So I've been driving an electric car now for 5 years. But I just, in a small way, you might say, "You're corny, Rankin." In a small way, when I leave this earth, I'm going to say, I tried to do what I could do. Yeah. It's not very much, but at least I tried to do something. And I gave a lot of talks to Brock University on global warming. Then it evolved into global warming. And 15 years ago, I was giving talks on global warming.
Wow.
So I'm kind of proud that, that I was at the forefront of that.
It sounds like you've always kind of had an innovative forward thinking, because even getting into those new industries and being up to those challenges with your involvement even from there. And when did the Rankin Cancer Run come in to play too?
Mary Ann tells the story. I think it was 13 years ago. She was with CIBC. Yeah. And she ran the run, and they wanted $50,000 for something in Niagara one time, and they approached them. And Mary Ann was making them hundreds of thousands, and they turned her down.
Wow.
So Mary Ann was not happy. So she said, I'm going to set up my own run. So she tells the story. She told at the golf tournament. She called, we were one of the sponsors of the old run, and she saw the names in the back of the sweater. She called Tim Hortons first, and I think they turned her down. They called me second. I was out of country. I think I was in Europe. She called my daughter, and Wendy said, my dad's away. I'll get an answer back in a week. But she texted me or called me or did something, and I said, sure, we'll do it. So we got back to Mary Ann in an hour. Yeah. So that's how it started.
You're always up for the challenge. You're always up for the next thing, eh? Yeah. You say yes a lot.
She's a school teacher and a great, Mary Ann's just a great lady. And I didn't know her really well. I met her, I think, at a wedding. We sat at the same table, so I didn't know her very well at all. But I knew she was a smart lady.
And just to go back, I was saying, I think one thing that I'm learning from you is the diversification of your business portfolio. And, for a lot of entrepreneurs, they put all their eggs in one basket. And, oftentimes, more than none, people like to admit that those businesses fail. And it seems that you always diversified. So if one wasn't doing good, you knew you were safe because you were doing other businesses.
That's too. Right. Now I ended up I own a quarry in Port Colborne. I own a Nashville plant in Thorold. And I just opened my own concrete plant in Niagara. Niagara Concrete, I just opened that in Thorold. So that's a new venture. We got about 13 trucks on the road. So that's a new venture. But I got a lot of ancillary companies that benefit the business.
But having all those, is that what has helped you almost stay as number one and stay competitive and ahead of your competitors, was kind of branching into those other areas?
I think owning the asphalt plant and the quarries really helped. They're integral to the construction industry, so they've helped a lot. But I'd give more credit to the staff we have and the people. I just love our staff. I love going into work. It's not work for me. Mm-hmm. I go in just to meet them and joke with them, and we keep everything light.
A lot of our entrepreneurs are always looking at, hiring people. And in today's world, even when we're hiring here for the hub, hundreds of applicants kind of fly in. So what are some of the things that you look for in people that you say, this is the right person?
Gentleman, I was in the office, and a gentleman came in, put an application in, and I said, I'm going to call John down. I want to be interviewed, because he said he's driving every day to Toronto, and he wants to live and lives in Niagara. Yeah. Somebody that does that's a hard worker. Mm-hmm. So John, and right away our engineer said, Bill, he said, John, I'm interested in that guy. Yeah. Very interested. So you see something like that, and a lot of times if I hadn't been there, he might have had a harder time getting in. But I said, make sure this guy's interviewed.
Yeah. Well, it's because you see it in people, right?
I see it in people,
and you take something and it kind of resonates to your early life and say, this person's a hard worker just like I was a hard worker. Yeah. And that seems to be like the common theme and name of the game, is that if you put your head down and you just get to work, then good things will happen to you, right? And as long as you don't make the same mistake twice, right, then
I agree. Those are just you don't make the same mistake twice. And I made a few mistakes. I used to bid all the jobs. And I was so busy, I'd be interrupted. One time I forgot to put the pipe in.
Oh, no.
It's like $60,000 for the pipe, and I forgot to put in the bid. But you can't, when you're arrested and you got a concert, and I was doing everything.
Yeah.
I was running into the office, so then I made him. So gradually now we have about probably eight estimators, but I used to do it all.
This podcast is about Niagara and why Niagara. So, you've been Northern Ontario, Western Ontario, Nova Scotia. Why? And then you decide to settle here in the Niagara region.
My wife, first of all, is from Fond Hill. She studied at the School of Nursing, Mac School of Nursing. Why wouldn't you love Niagara?
Well, that's exactly it.
Why wouldn't you love it? So
we try to encourage entrepreneurs from the rest of Canada, say, build your business here in Niagara. It's such a small community that has, amazing leaders such as yourselves that are so down to earth, easy to connect with, that can really help your business succeed.
So, after being in Timmins, I love Timmins. I loved up north. I love Nova Scotia. I went down. The only vacation I could afford when I worked for the city was to go down and visit my parents for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did every summer. Drove down to Nova Scotia. I would throw the 4 kids in the car with no seatbelts. Nobody had seatbelts. I throw them in the back. I had a big mattress in the back. And At least he said my father got to Nova Scotia, he did a head count.
Yeah, it's funny. My parents did the same thing. They had a big van and mattress in the back and no seatbelts too. So I understand where you're coming from. But those are the memories in your life where you remember most, right? In those fun times. So Niagara, such a lot of potential here.
Oh yeah, Niagara. And you know what? I'm proud to say I'm involved in that big project, the Japanese firm in Port Colborne.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
very proud. Rankin. We didn't play the foremost part, but we played a big part in them coming here. Because first of all, I owned the land with four other people. We sold them 160 acres of land along the canal, and they wanted to walk away. And I wrote a letter to the president of Japan very early on because he's worried about the soil.
Yeah,
the soil all came out of the canal, and there's about 50 feet of soil there. And I said, don't worry about it. I can drive piles. It's 85 feet to bedrock. We can put all your buildings on solid ground. We built the Meridian Center in St. Catharines, and it was 60 feet of fill. That was the old canal there.
Yep.
And I drove piles 110 feet there to bedrock, 350 piles, and I was that building solid.
So it's funny that you mentioned that because when you were doing that construction, I was a student at Brock University in my master's, and I was living downtown. And I remember at 7 in, just the whole building shaking, and these piles going on. I'm like, what's going on back there too? And when you're a student, early mornings aren't your best friend, right? So, but it was all good, and how that facility, the Meridian Center, revolutionized the whole downtown of St. Catharines.
And the mayor of St. Catharines wanted to build it on Jack Aycliffe. And I said, if you want to open the downtown, you got to build it there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you the story then. So we built it down the low-level parking lot. The people had to walk down the stairs to get there.
Yes.
And I figured some old guy's going to go down the stairs in the wintertime, fall down, break a hip. So I donated, it cost me $2 million. I donated the 2 bridges that go over.
Oh, yes.
So I designed and built the 2 bridges. It cost me $2 million, but I feel that's the best thing I ever did.
Yeah, it was. Exactly.
It's not on my conscience that I'm going to, somebody's going to get hurt. Because I convinced the mayor to build it there.
That's fantastic, and not only like you have families that go there, parents bring their strollers and things like that. So what a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit more about some of the other contributions that you have given here to Niagara. Fantastic, right off the bat, Niagara Health, Hospice Niagara, Jericho House, Alzheimer's Society, Niagara College, Brock University. It's almost like you have your hand on every single thing that's important to this region. Rankin is somehow involved too. So
Brock, that's the simple one. Brock gave me an honorary doctorate degree, so I gave them $2 million.
Yeah.
The hospitals, I give $2 million to Niagara South.
Yes.
The original hospital, I gave them $1 million. Niagara College, I think I gave Niagara College $1 million. I think.
Mm.
Then I gave them another $500. But I made my money in the community, so I feel that I owe it to the community. I went to St. FX, and when I went to university, it was run by Catholic priests.
Yes.
I remember they get on the pulpit. It always made me feel, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and suffer the loss of his immortal soul? And that stuck with me. And I said, I'm becoming rich, but that stuck with me. Honest to God, it did.
Well, and it's so grateful. Like, it's people like you that really help this region succeed with a lot of the philanthropy donations that you've given to those facilities too. And I know that they're grateful, and I know that without you, a lot of these places wouldn't have existed. A lot of our partners are, like Niagara Health and Niagara College, some of our partners. So, I think, giving back to the community is so important. And, what we
what it's paid. I didn't do it for that reason, but the Cancer Run people, they know the run so well now, and I'm getting brownie points. I didn't do it for that reason.
But
I never gave thinking I'm going to get repaid in some way.
Yeah. But you believed in them. You said yes, and you were up to the challenge to help them get started.
But it's just a way of life. It's my family life. In Nova Scotia, down there, if a barn burnt down, the community got together and rebuilt the barn for the farmer.
Yeah.
There was a guy, fisherman, went overboard. We spent days, forgot about our love, and looking for the body,
Mm-hmm.
Those, you learn growing up that this is the community thing to do. The community was everything.
Yes.
So it stuck with me.
And that's kind of what we preach when we try to attract entrepreneurs from around Canada and the rest of the world to Niagara, is that, there's a lot of incubators and accelerators all over Canada, but I don't think there's ones that has as much community support come behind them like we do. Like, for example, like we've had, grateful to have John McBain from the McBain McCollum Foundation. They donated to the hub. Grateful to have partners in Meridian, Niagara Health, Hatch, a previous partner, a lot of these partners. And then the support from people like our mayor, who, will go to bat for companies, that will introduce companies to other organizations too. And I think, that truly is the strength of Niagara compared to anywhere else, is that it's, 500,000 people. It's not a small region, but it's a very tight-knit region, and everybody's here to support each other and make Niagara the best. Is that kind of how you
I
feel?
agree. And we're not getting the big industries,
No.
They look at the triangle, and they go to Hamilton, Brantford. They want to be in that corridor to Windsor, to Brantford, to Toronto. They want to be in that corridor. And because we're in Hamilton, and we do the service for so many big industries. Amazon, 1 million square feet at the airport. Yeah. And we don't get them because they don't look at Niagara. So we have to have a lot of small industries down. We're not getting the big. Look at General Motors. They don't employ.
Yeah. But it sounds like with your assistance and your help, you are starting to help stimulate.
Yeah, it's nice to see the Japanese. That's the first big firm to come here. They're going to have 1,500 workers. Wow. They're interviewing people. The president of Brock was over in Japan, I think last week, and the vice president. They've been dealing with. They want some pretty high, educated people there, and they're working with Niagara College. So that was part of the reason why they came here, was the educational system too. Yes. That was a factor, no question.
So in this show, we always want to know some of things that you could share, some tips and tricks of how you've gained your success, some things that you do, whether it's a routine that you do, whether it's some of the philosophies that you believe in. But what do you do in your daily life, or what are the philosophies that you keep having in the back of your brain that keep you motivated and moving forward?
Well, I'm always looking for new opportunities, but the thing is, I don't delve into something. Like, if you're going to get into something, learn everything you can about it. Mm-hmm. Learn, even go as far as the market. Can I market this? You got to learn everybody. Learn your competitors. I'm looking at an industry right now to bring to Niagara, and I'm not I'm the guy helping this guy out, but he's gone around and looked at different plants in the United States. He's looking at building a plant. He's gone to the Netherlands. He's gone to the States. He looks at wait time. The trucks come in. It's a soybean plant. They bring soybeans in, 20-minute wait here. Down the States, 8-minute wait. So he's looking and he's interested in building a soybean plant. He says he got $120 million now from the government. I got the land for him to build it on, so I'm going to be part and parcel of it. But, you got to know your stuff. You just don't go and build a soybean plant. Yeah. You got to research. So if you get into something, research your product or what you're going to do. You got to know as much or more than your competitor. You got to know more, and then as the same way with me. When I wasn't ready to go in business, I was a young engineer. I had the academic qualification, but no business, no experience.
That's what you told your father. You said you wanted to work and get some professional.
I want to work and I want to go. So the same when they advertise for an engineer, they always say 5 years experience required. Like most companies want to have 5 years. Well, where are you going to get it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, a lot of people need a place to start out, right?
Yeah, so I take guys right from, mold them. I take them right out of school.
Yeah.
Most of our guys are graduates right out of school.
Yeah. It sounds like you work hard. Like, you show up every day. You're working hard. You interact. So usually when they see a leader doing that.
I want to see our people. I want to be able to give our people a bonus. If they're not getting a bonus, I call them in and talk to them. Mm-hmm. And there's not nobody in management doesn't get a bonus. But if I did, or I call them in and say, your bonus isn't as high as it should be. Like some guys I pay $250,000 at Christmas.
Wow.
Bonus.
Wow.
But if a guy's only bonus is $3,000, I think he should be $10,000. I say, no, you know what? I'll talk to them in a nice way.
Yeah.
I want to pay them more money.
Yeah. You want them to motivate.
I want them to grow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I think that's really important.
A fantastic tip, because I completely wholeheartedly agree that you should always be an expert in your own domain. What are some of the other things that you can teach entrepreneurs, like I said, to kind of share your successes and some of the things that you've done to get there?
Well, I would say be nice to people. Be nice to your employees. Don't burn any bridges. Mm-hmm. Don't burn bridges. This guy might be, you might have been involved in something, and because it'll come back to haunt you. I found later, not everybody in life treats you the best. You might have an inspector of the city that's a real. I wouldn't use the word, but they put you through the coals. They go by the spec, and some things are written in the specifications and you try to stick to them. But some things aren't important that's in the specs, and they'll stick you to something that's not important, that doesn't really mean anything in the job, and they'll make you do it. And so, it's a lack of common sense. So you got to have common sense. Well, I think if I have anything, I have a lot of common sense. It's not all academic. Well, common sense plays a big part.
And it's hard because a lot of people don't teach that. Common sense is built through experience, right?
That's right.
So, when you look at your early years, you dabbled in a lot of different industries, a lot of different careers, and taking to that you said
I think it helped me working on the farm. I was a city boy, really, and all I did was play hockey and sports in Timmins. But then in Nova Scotia, I worked. Then I was a fisherman, worked fishing lobsters, go to the ocean every day. And so I had a well-rounded experiences.
And all those jobs.
And I even lied about my age. I said I'm 15, worked in construction. So the construction, I figured I had quite a bit of experience because I worked in construction. When I worked with the Department of Highways, I ran jobs. I ran the job here. So I'm out in the job every day. And then I was in Vineland. I built the service roads in Vineland. Wow. When I started, the Beacon, you could drive right out in the QEW from the driveway from the Beacon or the Prudhomes.
Oh, wow.
Honest to God, you came down the QEW, you hung a left turn, you crossed the lanes, and it went into the Beacon.
Wow, across the lanes, yeah.
Honest to God. And a rainy day, there was nothing. I was calling the ambulances all day.
Yeah.
Rainy day because there was a stoplight of Victoria Avenue, and cars would slide in and hit another car in the back.
Oh, geez.
You don't expect a stoplight in the QEW.
Yeah, no. Good thing they got rid of those. So, but it seems that, with all the jobs that you had, if you didn't work, you weren't gonna succeed, right? It wasn't a passive job. And if you weren't fishing as a fisherman, you're not making money. If you're not,
and I've done jobs where I failed. I did a job with the Seaway. One time we lost $150,000. That was at Lock 2. The next year they had the job at Lock 1. And Dave Stevens was my partner then. He says, "Tom, we're not bidding it this year." And I said, No, I want to bid it. So I put the $150,000 I lost, and I put $150,000 profit, and I got the job, and we did it.
And you did it right.
Budget. But it was a learning experience a year before. We're down in this, and we're working in water. And, we had to do this job, and our guys there's a foot of water all the time. It wasn't good conditions. So I learned that, I learned how we got to dam the water up. The next year I learned all that. So sometimes it's a learning curve.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a learning curve.
But just keep moving forward.
But if we didn't have the resources, we could have went bankrupt with 150. We had the resources to cover that.
And Emma, as we wrap up here, I don't know if you have any final questions or points.
Just, I know you've mentioned that your uncle was kind of almost he gave you your first opportunity, and I want to ask if you would agree that did you have any mentors, anyone that helped you when you got your business partner, or did you work together equally? And is that something you would encourage entrepreneurs to look for?
I can't say I really had a mentor. I can't really say that. And when I was a farm manager in Nova Scotia, I did have an uncle, and he would help me if I had a problem. So I did have an uncle lived about a mile away. So he was probably a little bit of a mentor, but not that much. I didn't need that much help. But I would say no in my business did I have a mentor.
And is that why you...
Other than my wife.
Your wife, yes. Is that why you it seems like you invest a lot of time into your employees and your people, and you are a mentor to them too. So
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think I'm a mentor to my people.
Yeah.
I definitely am.
Yeah, definitely to most of Niagara. And that was where I kind of wanted to ask if listeners do want to get involved, or if they do want to support some of your charitable causes, how do they get involved with Rankin?
Well, they can get a hold of us on the Cancer Run. They just call the office or Marianne Edwards, either one. Yes. So we're always welcome. And it was virtual this year. Marianne, we had 14,000 people the last time, and then COVID hit, and it was getting to the point that the police officers were saying this is almost getting out of hand. Every year it was increasing by 1,000 people.
Yep.
It's crowd control. And, even walking on the streets, there was hardly enough room in the street. So that was a factor in Marianne. The other thing I find that some of them, like when we went into virtual, Marianne works a lot with the schools. And the teachers like it because they can hold it right in their own school. They can have an event right at the school, a fundraiser there. Yeah. Now, the downside, we used to make $1 million, now we're making about $800,000. So it has dropped, but there are some advantages, like Rankin at work. All our employees, we went for a walk, and then we had a dinner afterwards. So, we did a virtual, but I still like meeting the crowds and all that too. I'm a people person. I like meeting people.
Staying connected to the community. And is that another piece of advice you would give entrepreneurs, to just stay connected to their community?
Stay connected, yes.
Yeah.
Again, we're eternally grateful for having you. We're going to be following you and following a lot of your projects, and we hope to have you back here. And like I said, you're more than welcome to come use the space whenever you need a quiet space to work.
I'll check with some of our guys. I think some of our people would be very interested in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they would be.
Please do. And then for all of our listeners, you can find our podcast on.
Yeah. So, of course, this is the Made in the Mist podcast. You can listen to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and we do have a YouTube channel as well that we'll be publishing this on later.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. It's been great having you here at the Moneyman Podcast Studio, Niagara Falls Innovation Hub. Thank you so much. Like I said, we've learned so much personally, and I know that the community will too once they listen to this podcast. And like I said, we invite you to come use the Niagara Falls Innovation Hub whenever he wants to, from all of us, including the mayor, who was he regretted not being here, but he said no, he'll connect with you too. But he had so many great things to say about you, so we really want to thank you, and it's been an absolute honor to host you on our show here. So thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure for me to be here, and I know I had no idea of your hub here. This is amazing.
Well, thank you so much. Well, you're more than welcome to come use the space whenever. Thank you so much, Tom. And like I said, we look forward to following you and having you here again.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.